Greetings. I hope you're doing well today. Some years ago, I uh, left pastoral ministry for a season and um, went back to school and got some more education and that sort of thing, and um, became a family counselor, family therapist, psychotherapist in a group working with families of adjudicated child abuse. And in that capacity, we as a group of therapists provided um, individual, couple, and family therapy and group therapy for all the family members in families where the courts had determined that there was, in fact, child abuse and neglect. Um, Most of those cases, I would say, were situations of child sexual abuse. Um, when a very young child is sexually abused, especially when a very young child is sexually abused by someone that they should normally trust, a family member, immediate family or extended family, someone within that trusted circle of the family. When a very young child is abused, sexually abused by a person like that, it creates in that child a psychological dissonance. The pain, I don't mean necessarily the physical pain, although that may be involved, but the psychic pain and the psychic confusion is so great that almost immediately the little child suppresses the memory of it, grows up without ever remembering that they were sexually abused at all. If you ask them if they were, until they've done some really hard psychological work, they will say no. They have no memory of it at all. But other things are going wrong. Now, the reason they have no memory is because our brains are designed to protect us. When the pain is too difficult, our brains shove it down, lock it off, put it in a space by itself, and lock the door and pretend that it's not there. It's a coping mechanism. It's a natural thing. It happens to people. In extreme cases where the child has been sexually abused repeatedly and where it's been very, very traumatic, the pain, the psychic pain, is so great that actually the little child's personality will shatter. And that's one of the things that is believed to cause multiple personalities, and it contribute to some of the dissociative disorders and that sort of thing. In other cases, because that memory is suppressed, it creates all kinds of dysfunction in that person's life as they grow up, as they get older. And so various sorts of pathologies begin to manifest themselves over a period of time. And so, I'm speaking generally, of course, everybody is different. But as a person grows up, or when a person like that grows up, They typically experience symptoms of PTSD. They may have flashbacks. They may have intense anxieties. They may deal with deep depression. Now, there are other things that can cause all of these things too. I don't mean to suggest that if you have any of these symptoms that it means you were sexually abused as a child. It doesn't necessarily. But the child who was sexually abused and now has grown up, the adult who was abused as a child, will very often display symptoms of PTSD, of anxiety, of depression. As I mentioned, may experience some dissociative disorders, may experience some very disturbing dream patterns, may experience difficulty in relationships, difficulty relating, difficulty sexually, difficulty in really every aspect of relationships, may find it very difficult to enter into intimacy. Most often, someone who has been sexually assaulted as a child will grow up feeling a sense of worthlessness, a sense of shame, a sense of it must be my fault. And the reason for that is because all of us, as little children, look at our primary caregivers, typically our parents or step parents, as being perfect. And so if a figure who is supposed to be perfect hurts me as a little child, my natural reaction is there must be something wrong with me. Can't possibly be anything wrong with them. I idolize them. So it must be my fault. So I grow up with this feeling of inadequacy, this feeling of I'm not enough, this feeling of I'm no good, all those kinds of things stirring up. Eventually, in almost every case, something happens and the abuse bubbles up to the surface. Something comes to a head. Perhaps the symptoms that I mentioned, the PTSD or the depression or whatever, are so strong that the person, is seeking psychological help through a mental health professional. And in the course of that treatment, memories begin to surface. Memories begin to come alive, and they are frightening. All of that is a normal process. But what I would like you to know is that there is hope, there is healing. It is devastating for a child to be molested by anybody, but most especially by a trusted or someone they should be able to trust within the family system. But through proper treatment and the hard work of psychotherapy, wholeness is available. Freedom is available. So if you even suspect, or maybe you know, that something like that has happened, I would really encourage you to contact your local mental health agency and to seek out qualified professional help in your area with someone who is a specialist in dealing with the particular kind of trauma that comes from sexual abuse. Thanks for listening.